This video is going to show you how to graph a box plot, a box and whisker plot, and a modified box and whisker plot in the graphing calculator. So we have our data points from a previous problem. I went ahead and went into my stat key, my edit, and I went ahead and put in all the data points into my stat key. So since I have it in my stat key, I can find my 5-number summary, which I still have listed here. So then I know that a box plot would have this as a dot. I'd have a whisker all the way to 64, then I'd have my median at 69, my Q3 at 72, and then I'd have at 92 all the way at the end. So my box and whisker plot would look like this. I will also graph a modified box and whisker plot as well. So in order for me to graph this, I want to go to my stat plot because I need to see how I want to graph it. So I'm going to go to second, y equals, and I want to turn on my plot 1. I'm going to press enter on plot 1. I'm going to turn it on. Now I want it to have a box and whisker plot. So if I look through this, the choices here, I have the data points, I have a line, I have a histogram, I have a box plot, but this one is a modified box plot because it has the outliers, the little dots on the outside. The next one is the box and whisker plot, which includes all the information, which is the one I want to graph. So I'm going to press enter on that one. So my box plot will be what's graphed. So I want to graph this, and I can't just press graph because my graph is the 10 by 10 scale. I want to make sure that I have my box and whisker plot at the location for all of these X values. So it's got to go all the way from 48 to 92 at least. So I can press zoom, and I can actually do my zoom stat because I want to have these statistics graphed. So I'm going to go to zoom 9 because that's zoom stat. I'm going to press zoom 9. I'm going to let it graph. This is my box and whisker plot. So I can see the whisker here, my quartile 1, my median, my Q3, and then my maximum. So that is my box and whisker plot. Now if I want to graph a modified box and whisker plot to show the outliers to see if there are outliers, I can again go back to my stat plot. So I go to second stat plot. I want to keep my first box and whisker plot on there so that I can see if there are outliers and where they are, and to see how it changes from the original box and whisker plot to the modified. So I'm going to go to number 2. I'm going to press enter. I want to turn it on. So I'm going to go down to my type, and again my types going through here. I have just my regular data points. I have the line, which will just connect them. Then I have a histogram. Then this fourth one is the modified box and whisker plot because it's the box and whisker but with extra data points that shows us the outliers. So I'm going to press enter on that one. My list is still L1. I'm going to mark it with the outliers will be marked with the open dots, and it will be red. So my zoom is still in 9. It's still zoom stat, so I don't have to press it again. I can just go to graph. I'm going to press graph. There's my original one, and here is my modified. Now it is on the x-axis, so you can see the dots. So I have an outlier here, which was my minimum, so it looks like 48 is an outlier, and my maximum of 92 was also an outlier. It looks like those are the only 2 outliers that we have. But if you notice, our Q1, Q3, and our median do not change. All we did was we took the outliers out, and our new minimum and maximum have changed. So we now have a modified box and whisker plot to look at. So again, you turn your stat plot on. You can also do your stat plot from, if I go to y equals, you can notice that plot 1 is highlighted up here, plot 2 is highlighted, but plot 3 is not because I never turned on plot 3. So if I come up to either one of these and I press enter on this, so if I press enter on plot 1, it's no longer highlighted. So what's going to happen is my blue box and whisker plot will not be graphed. So I'm going to press graph. My blue box and whisker plot is not graphed any longer. My red modified one is. And it moved it up because I no longer have the original box and whisker plot. So I can clearly see that I just have 2 outliers on here. So again, if you go to your y equals, you can turn your plots on and off. But in order to figure out what you want to have on that plot, you do have to go into your statistics plotting. That's why it's stat plot. And I wanted my plot 1 to be my original box and whisker plot, And then in my plot 2, I wanted that one to be my modified box and whisker plot. So that's why I wanted both of them on. So I can turn plot 1 on, and I can come back up here and I can transition between plot 1 and plot 2. I can now go to plot 3. And if I wanted to turn on my data points and just have my data points graph, I can turn those on as well. So if I graph it now, apologize. I don't want to have my plot 3 on, so I can turn that one off by just going back to my y equals and just pressing enter on plot 3. So now I have my box and whisker and my modified box and whisker plot in the graph.